The night has fallen. The final rays of sunlight have long since dipped beneath the horizon, giving way to a gentle blanket of darkness that stretches across the sky like velvet. The hustle and hum of daily life has quieted into whispers, the distant murmur of wind brushing through trees, the occasional creak of wood as your house settles into sleep. In this moment, this rare, precious stillness, all your worries, all the noise, the to-do lists, the errands left unfinished, they begin to dissolve. The weight of the day lifts slowly, gently, like mist rising off a cool lake at dawn. There's nothing you need to do now. No deadlines. No responsibilities. No expectations. Just breathe. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply through your nose. Feel the air fill your lungs, stretching your chest ever so slightly, then let it out slowly through your lips. Again. In and out. With each breath, feel yourself settling, softening, melting into the present moment. Now, let this voice carry you. Let it guide you, softly, tenderly, through the currents of time, not rushing forward as we so often do, but gently flowing backward. Backward through the layers of memory and memory's ancestors. Through generations that came before you. Past wars and peace, kings and commoners, until time begins to slow, and the modern world falls away like petals from a flower. We are not going far in space, but far in time. To a quiet place, a small corner of the world rarely remembered, and even less often truly felt. Tonight, we are returning to a world long forgotten, not through textbooks or artifacts, but through sensation, imagination, and story. We will step gently into the cobbled pathways of a medieval village. Not to witness war or plague, not to study royalty or crusades, but to live, just one day. A single ordinary day. From the moment the first rooster crows, to the golden hush of twilight. We will observe life as it was, raw, simple, honest. There will be no great battles. No famous names. Only the breath of wind in thatched roofs, the scent of bread rising over stone ovens, the rustle of linen, the creak of wooden carts, the laughter of children splashing near a well, the bell that tolls at midday, the prayers whispered into darkness. This is not history as you learned it. This is the past as it was lived. The clatter of wooden bowls on an oak table, the strain of a farmer's back beneath the sun, the flicker of candlelight dancing on a parchment scroll, the careful weaving of a mother's hands sewing linen to last the winter. These are the details that never made it into the chronicles of kings, but they are the threads of life itself. And tonight we will follow them. Step by slow, deliberate step, we will walk beside a young shepherd as he greets the rising sun. We will join a mother preparing her family's morning meal. We will listen to the blacksmith hammer life into iron, feel the pulse of hooves on earth as a merchant passes through, and kneel beside a monk lost in quiet prayer. This is not nostalgia. This is remembrance. Because within the lives of these strangers from centuries past, we find reflections of ourselves. Our hungers, our fears, our hopes, our longing for meaning, for belonging, for beauty in the everyday. And though the world has changed, though our hands now scroll instead of churn butter, though our nights are lit by screens instead of firelight, the soul within us remains. And it yearns to understand. It longs to reconnect. So let us go, together, gently. Let the rhythm of this story slow your heart. Let the images unfold, like pages in a long-forgotten manuscript. Let the language wrap around you like a woolen cloak. And if your mind drifts, that's okay. There is no destination here. No final answer. Only the journey and the stillness it brings. So take another breath. Let go of the present moment. Let the light of the modern world fade behind you. And come with me. Let us return to a quiet morning where roosters crow over misty fields, to a time when the world was young with mystery, and the future hadn't yet arrived. Let us walk together through a day in a medieval village. From dawn to dusk. From the clinking of tools at sunrise to the hush of stars over candlelit prayers. Let's begin. As the first rays of sunlight pierce through the wooden shutters. As the first rays of sunlight begin to pierce through the narrow gaps in the wooden shutters, a new day quietly unfolds in the heart of a tranquil, remote village nestled between the rolling green hills and gentle slopes of a distant countryside. The village, cloaked in a soft morning mist, stirs slowly from its peaceful slumber. Every morning is like a page from a timeless story here, where time seems to move more slowly, where the rhythm of life is in tune with the rising and setting of the sun. The golden beams of morning light tiptoe through the slits in the bamboo and wooden panels of the simple rural homes, dancing delicately on the earthen floor and casting long shadows against the woven mats. This first light, gentle yet determined, is like nature's daily whisper that the world must once again come alive. It filters through the lingering darkness, not with urgency, but with quiet insistence, like a familiar guest arriving at just the right moment. In this early hour, the light is not just illumination. It is comfort, it is memory, and it is promise. In the distance, the crow of a rooster echoes across the valley, breaking the silence of dawn. It's a sharp yet welcoming sound that cuts through the haze of dreams. The rooster's call, echoing from one farmstead to another, is a familiar morning chorus in this land. It's a call that has signaled the start of the day for generations, perhaps for centuries. The sound does not startle, rather it reassures. It tells of continuity, of routines unchanged, of life as it always has been. Other birds soon join in, a medley of chirps and whistles, each species announcing its presence in the morning's theater. The air, though cold, carries these sounds gently as if not to break the sacredness of dawn. Inside one of the modest thatched cottages in the village, life begins to stir. The house, built of bamboo and mud, with walls the color of sun-baked earth and a roof made from layers of dried palm leaves, is simple yet full of life. Its structure, though humble, speaks volumes about the resilience of those who dwell within it. In the center of this small home lies its heart, the fire pit. The fire is kindled with care and familiarity. Dry twigs and pieces of firewood, collected during yesterday's stroll through the nearby woods, are arranged thoughtfully. With practiced hands, the oldest member of the household, often a grandparent wrapped in a faded but warm blanket, strikes a spark. The first hint of smoke rises, winding its way up through the chimney made of mud and thatch, trailing into the cold morning air. It smells of earth and wood, a nostalgic scent that is both grounding and comforting. The flames, once caught, begin to grow, flickering and dancing like tiny spirits awakened from the night. They crackle softly, a lullaby for the morning. The fire's glow bathes the room in a warm orange hue, pushing back the lingering chill of night. This warmth is not just physical, it seeps into the spirit, offering a sense of safety, of belonging. The hearth becomes a gathering place, a silent companion to the beginnings of the day. The aroma of burning wood slowly diffuses throughout the small space. It's not harsh or overwhelming, but instead carries with it the sweetness of dried twigs, the resin of pine, and the faint scent of smoke-clung memories. It wraps around everything, the mats, the walls, the clothes hanging neatly on a bamboo line across the room. It is a scent so familiar that no one in the house truly notices it, yet they would feel incomplete in its absence. The fire is not just for warmth, it is the cornerstone of morning rituals. A kettle, blackened from years of use, is placed atop the flames. Soon it begins to hum, steam curling from its spout in elegant swirls. Water collected from the nearby stream, cool, fresh, and clear, is transformed into hot tea or rice water, a simple yet sacred beverage that signals the start of the day. The bubbling of the kettle joins the quiet symphony of dawn. Around the fire, family members begin to gather, their footsteps soft against the earthen floor. A child, still sleepy-eyed, wraps a blanket tighter around themselves and nestles beside the fire. A mother, dressed in a cotton blouse and long traditional skirt, begins to prepare the morning meal, perhaps sticky rice wrapped in banana leaves or sweet potatoes cooked in the embers. She moves with calm efficiency, each motion a part of a well-rehearsed ballet passed down from generation to generation. Outside, the fog is beginning to lift, and the outlines of rice paddies and distant hills grow sharper with each passing minute. The sun, now slightly higher, casts a gentle golden glow over the dew-laden grass. Water buffalo stir in their pens, chickens begin to forage near the doorstep, and the soft clang of a distant cowbell marks the presence of a grazing herd just beyond the fields. Life, slowly but surely, resumes its rhythm. The village itself is still hushed, but not asleep. In nearby homes, similar scenes are unfolding, fires being lit, breakfasts being prepared, prayers being whispered to the ancestors, and the day's tasks being quietly anticipated. This is a land where technology has only gently brushed the edges of daily life. Mobile phones are rare, electricity unreliable, but the connections between people and nature, between generations, are strong and unbroken. As the fire crackles, the stories of old come to mind, of grandparents who once tended these flames, of harvests celebrated, of storms endured. Every ember, every rising wisp of smoke, carries with it a piece of history, a fragment of family lore. The fire, in its own quiet way, is a keeper of the past. The warmth spreads. It touches faces, softens cold fingers, and reaches into the soul. It says, "You are home. You are safe. You are part of something timeless." Even the silence here feels sacred. It is not empty but filled with presence, with the presence of ancestors, of nature, of memory, and of hope. Time moves differently in this place. The villagers do not wake to alarms or hustle into traffic. Instead, they wake to light, to warmth, to sound and scent. They rise with purpose, yet without rush. Each step into the morning is deliberate, grounded, and full of awareness. The sun's rising is not just a change in the sky, it is an invitation to live, to feel, to be present in every moment. As the sun climbs higher, the mist eventually fades, revealing the full splendor of the valley, terraced fields glistening with dew, birds swooping through the open skies, and a mosaic of rooftops scattered across the green landscape. Children will soon run barefoot through the dirt paths, farmers will make their way to the fields, and elders will sit on woven stools outside their homes, sipping tea and watching the world go by with a quiet smile. But in this singular moment, when the fire is still new, the light still soft, and the world still whispering, there is magic. It is a magic born not of fantasy, but of presence, of gratitude, of love etched into the everyday. The fire, with its dancing flames, is more than just a source of heat. It is a reminder that even in the simplest of places, even in the quietest of mornings, there lies a depth of life that is vast, rich, and profoundly beautiful. And so, the day begins, not with noise or haste, but with reverence, with ritual, and with fire. Beside the hearth, a morning with the millstone. Beside the hearth, the coarse grains were brought out. They were slowly ground into flour, preparing for the first meal of the day. The sound of the stone mill turning was steady, unhurried, creating its own rhythm of the morning. Each turn of the millstone was a small step forward, transforming the coarse grains into a simple yet essential source of life. The scent of freshly ground flour lingered faintly in the air, humble and familiar. This scene, though seemingly simple, carries with it the heartbeat of generations, the rhythm of life sustained by tradition, patience, and a deep understanding of nature's cycles. It is a ritual that has been performed in countless kitchens across time and place, in the quiet of the dawn, under the glow of embers that never quite fade from the night before. The stone mill itself, with its weathered surface and unassuming bulk, is more than a tool, it is a living archive. Its grooves have been worn smooth by countless rotations, by the touch of countless hands. It stands as a silent witness to lives lived close to the land, to mornings like this one, stretching backward through time. In this kitchen, nestled perhaps in a modest countryside home, the air carries more than just the scent of flour. It holds the memories of stories told while grinding, of laughter shared, of silences that speak volumes. The woman, or man, who bends over the stone mill knows the grains intimately. These grains may have been harvested just weeks before, golden in the sun-drenched fields. They might have passed through calloused fingers, been sifted and stored with care in clay or wooden containers. There is an intimacy to this process that modern life often forgets. In an age where flour arrives neatly packaged on supermarket shelves, its origins obscured by machinery and marketing, this act of grinding by hand becomes almost sacred. It is a reclaiming of agency, a direct connection between effort and sustenance. It teaches patience, for the millstone will not rush, it will only yield its product through deliberate, measured turns. Each sound, the gentle scrape of grain against stone, the soft thud of kernels falling into the mill, the rhythmic creak of wood as the handle is turned, joins a symphony of domestic life. Outside a rooster might crow. The soft rustle of wind in the trees whispers through the window. But here, in this heart of the home, the grinding mill leads the melody of morning. The fire crackles softly nearby, casting flickering shadows across the floor. It is not just a source of warmth, but of continuity. It connects this morning to the countless others that came before. The Bep Lua, this humble fire, has seen it all. It has warmed meals and hearts, dried wet clothes after rain, served as a gathering point for generations. Around it, lives have unfolded slowly, tenderly. The process of grinding the grain isn't only about making food. It's an act embedded with culture, habit, and intention. The grains might be millet, rice, corn, or wheat, each with their own story, their own region, their own rituals. In northern regions, buckwheat flour may be favored. In others, rice may form the staple. But the essence remains unchanged, turning the raw, the rough, into something nourishing. There's an artistry in this, though it may not be recognized as such by the one turning the mill. But artistry it is. The consistency of the flour, the steadiness of the rhythm, the attention given to each pass, all of these reflect skill honed over time. Perhaps it's a grandmother passing the task on to her granddaughter, gently correcting the speed of the turn, showing her how to listen to the sounds that signal when the grain is ready. And the smell, that gentle nutty aroma of freshly ground grain, is a fragrance that lingers not just in the air but in memory. It evokes safety, home, and warmth. It speaks of simplicity, of a life close to the earth. Beyond the act of grinding lies the promise of a meal. Perhaps the flour will be made into flatbreads, warm and pliable, ready to be torn and shared. Maybe it will become a porridge, thick and nourishing, or be used to make cakes steamed over the fire, their sweetness tempered by the smoky fragrance of the hearth. Whatever its final form, this flour, born of patience and effort, will nourish more than the body. It will carry forward tradition, culture, and care. In many cultures, grinding grain is also a moment of mindfulness. Each turn of the stone is an invitation to reflect, to breathe with the rhythm, to align one's heartbeat with the steady movement of the hands. The morning may be cold, the tasks of the day many, but for this moment, the world is distilled into the simplest of motions. Inhale. Turn. Exhale. The mind, like the grain, is ground down to its essence, clear, purposeful. There is something deeply human in the act. It connects us to the earliest of ancestors, who too ground their grains by hand, who too found comfort in the scent of flour rising warm from the stone. In that sense, this act is not only timeless, it is unifying. Even the tools themselves are infused with meaning. The millstone, likely made of basalt or granite, heavy and strong, is both resilient and grounded. Its texture determines the quality of the flour, its weight guides the rhythm. Often, it is passed down through generations, an heirloom more valuable than gold. To inherit a millstone is to inherit the task of feeding, nurturing, and continuing the lineage. The kitchen, though simple, holds echoes of ancient temples. Not in grandeur but in spirit. Here each act is sacred. Each grain, each flame, each breath carries intention. The woman at the mill may pause to push back a stray strand of hair. Her hands, dusted in flour, bear the stories of labor and love. She might hum softly, an old folk tune perhaps, passed down just like the grains. The melody weaves through the room, gentle and unobtrusive, adding another layer to the morning's quiet music. Time slows in this space. The outside world, with its rush and noise, is held at bay. Here there is only the fire, the stone, the grain, and the one who brings them all together. It is a moment outside of time, both ancient and immediate. And when the grinding is finished, when the flour is gathered into a simple cloth and the last of the grain has passed through the stone, there is a small sense of triumph. A small yet profound satisfaction. Something has been made by hand with care. Something essential. Outside the light brightens. The day begins in earnest. But inside, beside the hearth, the rhythm of the morning lingers. The scent of flour remains. The story of the grain, the fire, and the millstone is carried forward, into the meal, into the memory, into the heart. The water simmered, barely nudging the surface, inside an earthenware pot placed gently over the low flame. The little stove in the corner of the kitchen emitted a soft, reassuring glow, illuminating the rough clay vessel. Wisps of steam spiraled upward in slow motion, curling and twisting as they ascended into the dim light of the pre-dawn kitchen. Those delicate currents of vapor cloaked the room in a diaphanous veil, lending the space a dreamlike hush. Morning had not yet fully awakened, but a promise of activity simmered beneath the silence. Each bead of condensation that formed on the pot's lid carried a trace of the life about to stir. The aroma of heated water, iron-tinged, earthy, almost sweet in its simplicity, wafted through the room, stirring the senses like a gentle reminder that the day would soon begin. Outside, the first pink threads of dawn were just beginning to weave themselves into the sky. A faint glow crept over the horizon, the world transitioning from night's soft, dark blanket into a lighter shade of waiting gray. The faint glow was not yet bright enough to banish the village's slumber, but it hinted that the day would come. It was the lull before the day's chorus. In the kitchen, the breakfast rituals were modest. A simple porridge, rice, water, salt, was about to be prepared. It wasn't the creamy congee of city restaurants, thick with butter and stock. This was the plain kind, nourishing, easy to digest, perfectly suited to slow mornings and modest means. Or perhaps, on another day, freshly baked bread, rustic, made from coarse flour, hearty though not refined, would appear instead oil-light, slightly warm, cut or torn into uneven pieces. Either way, the goal was the same: sustainment. To give body and spirit enough strength for the day ahead. The steam from the pot blurred the edges of everything, softening the hard lines of the cooking implements. The aged wooden spoon, the chipped ceramic bowls, the tin cup once silver, now dulled by years of use. Every item in the kitchen told a story, of meals prepared with care, conversations had over rice or porridge, the quiet moments of reflection before dawn. Light flickered across the weathered surfaces, carried in staccato pulses by the saffron-tinged flame beneath the pot. Out on the path that led through the village, mist still clung to the ground. That low-hanging blanket of moisture caught the first rays of light, turning them into shimmering refracted shards. Drops of dew on blades of grass sparkled like miniature gemstones, each one capturing a bit of the waking sky. In that pale blue-gray hush, the lane seemed both vast and intimate, timeless yet tied to each traveler who would soon tread its course. The village at the edge of the mountains lay in slumber. Its houses, humble wooden frames or low brick structures, sat quiet, their windows dark or lit only by dim lanterns. Smoke still curled from a few chimneys, thin gray threads lifting lazily into the air, carrying the same scent of burning wood that had accompanied countless mornings before. But most houses were still silent. All was calm. A pair of chickens stirred near a chicken coop at the edge of a yard, scratching the ground. Their soft clucks broke the stillness faintly, but the world beyond, fields, trees, the path, remained hushed. The chickens' movements seemed slow, delicate. Peck, scratch, step forward, peck again. They too were cautious, either reluctant to start or acclimated to a pace that matched the village itself. Inside, the simmering water in the pot began to show a few plump bubbles at the center. It was still far from a rolling boil, but the energy beneath the surface was building. The pot's earthen walls absorbed and radiated heat. One could almost hear them sigh as if they felt the warmth spreading inward. If one pressed a finger against the rim of the pot, though it would be foolishly hot, that mellow grounding heat would transfer back through the skin, the kind of heat made not by electrical coils, but by the enduring warmth of clay and flame. Time had a certain elasticity in these pre-dawn hours. It could stretch slowly, making minutes feel long, and yet compress quickly once the sky began to lighten. In those early moments life felt suspended. No one had yet stepped beyond the threshold of their door, no feet yet disturbed the path, no voices yet greeted each other in the courtyard. Everything felt possible. Morning stood poised like a blank canvas, waiting for the first brushstroke. For the household's matriarch, a gentle-faced woman with age spots like constellations on her weathered skin, these were the hours she favored. In the gentle obscurity she could center herself. It was in this hush that she'd evaluate the day's needs. Did she have enough food for the family's midday meal? Were there errands to run in the nearby district market? Was there firewood to gather before the sun climbed too high? And most importantly, did anyone need her attention early? A child with a cough, a relative arriving from a neighboring hamlet? Her hands moved with practiced ease. She lifted the pot's lid just a crack, enough to let a plume of steam escape and scent the room, but not so much that it cooled. She dipped the wooden spoon edgewise into the simmering water, listening to the fluid, hollow sound echoing in the clay chamber. Carefully she scraped any rice deposit from the bottom. She measured a small portion of uncooked rice in her palm, wide and full enough. Gently she let the grains fall into the water, where they thudded and sank. She stirred again, more slowly now, coaxing the rice, water and residual salt to meld into a creamy mass. In one motion she shifted a battered tin kettle next to the pot. She filled it from a pitcher on the wooden shelf, water drawn from the village well last evening, stored to warm overnight. The kettle rattled softly. She lit the flame beneath it, smaller than the one under the earthen pot but just enough to coax steam. Eventually it too would begin to hiss, but for now it sat waiting, just as they. In that half-lit kitchen, the woman felt something familiar stir within her. Contentment rooted in purpose, in the knowledge that she was steward to so many simple yet vital tasks. She arranged her tools: the ladle, the tin bowl for scooping, the wooden paddle-like spatula. She lined the bowls neatly on the worn tabletop. Each had a small chip or a faded floral pattern. They were not ornate, but they were hers. Each had come from some event or family member. One had been a wedding gift. Another had come from her mother, who learned to cook in this same kitchen under a thatched roof. Time had embraced these bowls like old friends. Then, nothing. Just the minute scraping of clay, the gentle hiss of simmering liquid, a soft breeze from the window. There was no urgency yet. Breakfast would be ready but not rushed. Out on the path, a rooster crowed at last, low and drawn out, greeting the rising sun. Then a second, briefer crow in response. That call floated in through the open window. In that moment, all the ingredients of morning aligned. The steam, the clay, the dim light, the smell of cooking rice, the rooster's voice announcing that dawn was no longer a suggestion. It was here. She paused to inhale deeply, closing her eyes. In that single breath she tasted the world. The faint sweetness of rice, the earthen pungency of clay, the wood smoke tang in the air, the crisp freshness slipping in through the window, touched by dew. That dew, cold and liquid, collected overnight, hovered on the tips of every leaf and blade outside. It carried a more subtle scent, the earth perfume of grass and soil and first light. Scene by scene, memory by memory, all of her days seemed to gather here. She remembered gathering dough at another dawn, rolling out flatbreads to feed hungry children. She remembered peering at a pot of soup as it simmered, sending its steam into a kitchen just as mute and expectant. She remembered winters by the same hearth, temperature so low her breath hung inside the kitchen. But that pot of simmering water, it was unchanged. It was primordial. It connected her to ancestors, to mothers and grandmothers who'd soothed their families with words and rice and warmth. The steam thickened as it does when a soft boil begins. She removed the lid fully and warm, fuzzy clouds of vapor rushed forth, revealing tender grains floating like pearls in a pale broth. She brought the spoon up, letting a translucent ribbon of porridge fall back into the pot. It rippled as if acknowledging itself. She tasted a tiny spoonful. Salt was just right. The rice had begun to soften. Soon it would become part of the simple nourishment that would ride on tired stomachs. She closed the lid, lowered the flame gently, and wrapped her shawl more snugly around her shoulders. She stepped out of the kitchen. Light had spilled further down the path, outlining its curves. Mist lingered, but it was beginning to disperse, revealing earth and stones. A neighbor, an older man bent slightly from years of labor, was already walking toward her. His steps were delicate, as if he didn't want to disturb the morning's charm. He tipped his head in greeting. He smelled of wood smoke and wet earth, and his wife's hands in his coat pocket had left a faint, homey warmth. "Good morning," he said, voice low and raspy, but full of smile even unseen. "Good morning," she replied. "Breakfast is soon." He paused, glancing at the steam rising through the window. It looked like a promise. "I'll stop by for some porridge before I head off," he said. As he continued on, heading toward fields or distant work, she inhaled again. Apart from the morning song of birds, warblers, a solitary blackbird, the day felt reverential. The air was cool but hardly cold. A few stray clouds floated high, creating quiet shadows overhead. Every now and then, the mist parted just enough to catch a beam of pink or golden light. It was a slow reveal to the world. Villages, barns, fences, gardens, gnarled trees. Bamboo whispered along fences. The tea bushes bowed across terraces. The little valley seemed to yawn, stretching itself awake. She returned to the kitchen to attend the little flame beneath the pot. The lid had begun rattling slightly from steam pressure. Now the porridge had thickened to the right degree, creamy, milky, speckled with translucent grains. She stirred carefully. Then she poured a small cup of warm water from the kettle, mixed a little sugar, if someone preferred sweet, with a teaspoon. She knew her son liked sweet porridge. Her husband preferred it plain. She set both cups on the table accordingly, along with a dish of pickles, sour mustard greens or shredded carrots, kept overnight in brine. That crisp tang would enliven the simple bowl. She lifted the pot from the flame and carried it, gently rocking it like a cradle, to the low table. This table, made by her husband long ago, was scarred and polished smooth by decades of passing hands and bowls. She scooped porridge into bowls efficiently. Steam spiraled upward. She arranged them, the plain bowl for her husband, the sweeter one for their son, and a larger share for herself. She could have eaten more, but this was enough. It would be gone soon anyway, but that was the nature of life. Modest portions shared, consumed. Footsteps sounded on the wooden floor. Her husband padded in, followed by their son rubbing sleepy eyes. Their presence completed the morning tableau. No words were needed yet. The steam, the porridge, the quiet breakfast setting, all spoke volumes. They sat. She brought herbal tea for her husband, mint or lemongrass from their own garden. The kettle hissed again as she poured, and he inhaled deeply before sipping. Their son breathed in the porridge aroma, and maybe smiled in his dream-addled way. They ate silently. Each spoonful warm and mild, perfectly textured to slide easily down the throat. Outside, the mist began to shift, pulling back further from the ground. The path that had just been a suggestion of land now showed glimpses of gluey clay, footprints leading toward a cluster of rice paddies. A dog barked distantly, likely another neighbor's dog asserting that the world had awakened. The chickens further up the lane flapped their wings and strutted. They'd seen enough. Food was on the horizon and they were ready. In the kitchen the light steadily increased. By the time bowls were scraped clean and wiped, the room had brightened considerably. Rays of sunshine edged their way around the windows, bumping up the contrast between wall and ceiling, bowl and spoon. Warmth arrived not just from the food but from illumination. It brought with it energy and clarity, a crispness that made one almost want to step out, stretch arms, breathe deeply, and commit to the assignments of the day. Outside again, ever so gently, a bird hopped down from a branch, a sparrow or finch, pecking at stray kernels on the path. A breeze brushed past, carrying scents, earth, grass, wood, faint sweetness of blossoms starting to open. Day had indeed begun to shine, spreading outward from that pot of simmering water. The matriarch gathered the bowls and utensils, stacking them in the basin by the sink. Water ran from the well-drawn bucket. Hands plunged in warm soapy suds swirling with remnants of porridge. She hummed softly, an old lullaby her mother sang in the years before her wedding. The tune had no words, or maybe the words were wrong by now, but the pattern was right. It fit the rhythm of morning, steady, soothing, unassuming. Once the washing was done and everything put away, she paused at the door again. The village was fully awake now. Someone on the path was carrying a load of firewood, balancing it across a shoulder. A woman ahead of him carried 2 full baskets of vegetables to bring to the market. In the yards and fields people began to work, planting, harvesting, feeding animals. Day in full swing. She stood there wrapped in her shawl watching. The sun rose higher, illuminating every face with gentle light, enlivening every task with warmth. Her heart felt full. This was it, life in its honest simplicity. The meeting of flame, clay, water, ripeness, all elements converging into a morning that might seem small to an outsider, but was profound to anyone who recognized sustenance, connection, routine, and hope. She looked down at her smoky kitchen, glanced back to the yard, and then let herself step forward. She joined the rhythm of her village, her family, her life. And perhaps in some small way she made the world a little better simply by being present, by welcoming dawn with a humble pot, by lifting the veil of mist, by nourishing body and spirit alike. Reflecting on the scene. Earthen pot and simmering water. The original image, water simmering in an earthen pot. The heartbeat of the morning becomes a meditation on elemental warmth. The clay, the flame, the rising steam, each is central to the atmosphere of comfort, ritual, and history. Steam is a veil. The misty steam filling the kitchen expands to encapsulate not just visual softness but emotional resonance. Nostalgia, potential, continuity across generations. Simple breakfast. The choice of plain porridge or coarse bread is unpacked to emphasize sustenance and modesty, connecting each bite to familial and cultural memory. The contrast between city fare and this rural simplicity highlights value and presence over extravagance. Village dawn. The path immersed in dawn hush becomes a stage where nature, animals, people, light, sound, and scent all join in a ritual of awakening. Not just scenery, it's a collective breath, a communal pause, a slow dance into daylight. Ritual and memory. Each mundane gesture, lifting the lid, stirring the rice, washing up, becomes imbued with lineage and continuity. What looks like simplicity becomes layered with intention, history, and quiet love. Light and atmosphere. The gradual flood of dawn light, the dispersal of mist, the soft chorus of birds and roosters, all serve to map the transition of time from possibility to engagement. Character and family. The matriarch's thoughts, interactions with her husband and son, her neighbor, their actions and presences root the scene in relational depth. It's not just a scene of cooking, it's one of family and place. Conclusion of presence. At the end, the scene comes full circle. The pot of water sparked the day, the family ate, the village stirred, and she, central to it all, becomes both witness and participant. Life moves forward through small but essential acts. The soil is turned over, revealing layer upon layer of dark brown earth, dampened by hidden moisture. This task demands not only patience but also a profound, almost spiritual connection with Mother Earth. Tiny seeds, no larger than a pinhead, are scattered evenly upon the prepared bed. Each one carries within it the promise of abundance, a glimmer of hope for a thriving harvest. They descend softly, one by one, as though placing their trust in the earth's embrace. There, cradled by the cool, soft ground, they wait in hushed anticipation for the miracle of germination. The ritual of preparation. Before the first seed ever touches the soil, a careful ritual unfolds. Hands, calloused yet gentle, lift the ancient, peat-scented ground with practiced ease. The farmer or gardener stoops low, eyes tracing the texture of the earth. Grains mixed with silk-fine dust, flecks of decaying leaves, tiny stones tumbled smooth by time. Each handful is examined. If too coarse, it's broken down. Too fine, it's tempered with crumbly compost. There is a delicate balance to maintain. The right soil must be porous enough to allow air and water, yet cohesive enough to support tiny roots. As the earth is turned, a moist aroma drifts upward. The scent is rich and alive, like the breath of some ancient creature stirring from slumber. It is an odor that speaks of renewal and lies at the heart of agricultural practice across countless civilizations. In that moment, the gardener seems to tap into a lineage stretching back through millennia, the knowledge of soil mechanics passed down through generations, encoded in muscle memory as surely as in written treatises or oral tradition. The seed and its promise. Seed, small, unassuming, almost fragile. But within its hard casing lies a universe of potential. Genetic material honed by evolution, a packet of energy accumulated in the parent plant, and an instinctual drive toward growth. These seeds may be heirloom varieties, carrying the genes of plants cultivated dozens or hundreds of years ago. Or they may be hybrids, designed for disease resistance or increased productivity. In either case, each seed is selected with care, inspected for cracks, shriveled skins, or signs of pest damage. The gardener takes a small wooden scoop or sometimes simply uses their fingers to distribute the seeds. There is an art to the spacing. The distance between each seed ensures it will receive sufficient sunlight, nutrients, and airflow, yet remain within a supportive community of its peers. If seeds are too crowded, tiny seedlings will choke each other. Too sparse, and patches of bare earth invite weeds. It is a choreography. The gardener must balance density and openness, intuition and experience. The fall into darkness. One by one the seeds fall. There is something quietly majestic in that descent. A seed leaves the warmth of a palm, tumbles a few inches in the air, and then settles, softly, almost reverently, into the dark earth. The surface closes above it, and the seed is now in a world without light, heat, or form. In that darkness, buried beneath the surface, several things must converge to initiate life. First comes moisture. Water seeps downward from recent rain or irrigation. The seed imbibes it, swelling as if awakening from hibernation. Molecules reorganize, cells fracture the tough outer coat. Then comes warmth, mediated by ambient air and sun-filled days that penetrate the soil. Lastly, if the soil is alive, microbial activity acts as a cryptic coach, producing enzymes that break down inhibitors within the seed. Within this fertile cocoon, the seed's radicle emerges, a fragile thread of life, tunneling downward to anchor itself and capture water and minerals. Next, the shoot begins its ascension, growing upward to reach the light above. But at this stage, all remains unseen, a silent drama unfolding beneath the surface. Patience as a practice. To work the soil, to plant the seeds, to wait, this is an act of faith. One sows without seeing, trusting that the seasons will deliver. In modern life, where everything is available on demand, this pace can seem agonizingly slow. Days go by with no visible signs. Weeds may creep in, pests may nibble at vulnerable sprouts. The gardener stands watch, scanning the beds each morning, worried about burrowing creatures or shifts in soil moisture. Yet there is solace in the routine. Checking moisture levels, adjusting water, monitoring light and shade, all of it gives structure to the waiting. Beyond the waiting lies a certain spiritual lesson: to cultivate patience, to relinquish control, to honor natural rhythms. Here the human role is neither commanding nor passive. It is cooperative, supportive, respectful. Germination, a quiet triumph. When the first green tips emerge, tiny cotyledons pushing upward like delicate wings, it is as though the earth has kept its secret long enough for a grand revelation. These shoots are so pale, nearly white, that they seem shy, still unsure of the light they now encounter. Yet each is a declaration declaring, "I am alive." The gardener, bending low, brushes a soil speck from a leaf, examines root threads tracing through the dark. There's a surge of emotion, awe, relief, anticipation. It affirms the gamble taken weeks earlier, when a finger traced a straight row in the soft earth, and seeds were placed with care. Now life answers back. The dance of growth. Once seedlings emerge, the game changes. They are no longer hidden miracles but visible organisms demanding attention. Sunlight becomes fuel, water, sustenance, soil, support. But they are fragile. A single late frost, unexpected downpour, or infestation can undo weeks of effort. The gardener tends them daily, weeding to prevent rivalry, staking to support, shading from harsh sun, adjusting irrigation so roots delve deeper instead of reaching skyward in desperation. Each plant grows according to its own timetable. Some are quick to sprout leaves. Others spend energy underground, building a reserve before above-ground growth kicks in. Here is the marvel. Beneath the same soil, seeds of different crops follow different blueprints. Some form taproots, others fibrous root systems. Some are nitrogen fixers, others extract phosphorus. It is a mosaic of life emerging in silent parallel. The weave of ecology. It's not just about seed and soil. The gardener also engages with unseen partners. Earthworms that aerate the soil as they tunnel, mycorrhizal fungi that extend roots reach in exchange for sugars, predatory insects that feast on pests, pollinators that will later help flowers set fruit. This web of life must be encouraged, not suppressed. Weeds are not merely nuisances. They are opportunists, indicators of soil conditions. Some broadleaf weeds indicate compacted ground. Grasses may signal overwatering. Rather than chemical eradication, the gardener pulls by hand, raking, mulching, composting weeds to return them to the ecosystem as nutrients. Pest outbreaks are managed through natural predators or organic treatments. Diseases are prevented through crop rotation and biodiversity, not synthetic fungicides. This is regenerative agriculture in miniature, a microcosm of responsible stewardship. A tapestry of senses. To paint a full portrait of this process, one must evoke all the senses. Imagine the soft whoosh of soil falling back into the trench, followed by the gentle click of seeds being dispensed. Hear the faint rustle of cotyledons unfolding, like paper at dawn. Smell trilayers of damp earth, composting vegetable matter and emerging foliage. Feel the rough texture of soil between fingers, cool to the touch, yielding to kneeling upon. Taste the metallic tang of fresh soil dusting the lip, sometimes carried aloft on a breeze. These sensations ground one in reality and tradition. When sowing, the gardener is not abstract or disconnected. They are wholly present in time and place. There is ritual here, setting intentions for the harvest, mentally placing hope in each row, whispering wishes that the rains will come and that the sun's heat will be neither excessive nor lacking. Stories embedded in soil. Across world cultures and centuries, this act of sowing has carried symbolic weight. In biblical parables, in agricultural mythologies, in folk songs, the seed and the soil are archetypes, symbols of birth, death, rebirth, renewal. Think of the parable of the sower, where seeds fall on different types of ground, embodying the variability of human openness to truth. Think of spring festivals marking planting season, celebrating the return of fertility. Ancient temple walls depict gods of grain, seeds superimposed over fields, illustrating the sacred bond between humans and earth. Our simple act of planting echoes these enduring narratives. In that moment when the seed disappears into the ground, there is a dialogue between human will and natural law, between effort and release, between the future and the timeless. Harvest as culmination foreshadowed. Though the initial scene focuses on sowing, every gardener knows that this is not the end, but the beginning of a journey toward harvest. In these early days there is implicit promise. If the seeds sprout, if the plants endure, if conditions align, then in weeks or months there will be fruit. Often one imagines crisp lettuce leaves, sweet carrots, plump tomatoes, though actual yields cannot be known yet. In warmer climates, cucumber vines will creep and sprawl. In cooler ones, brassicas will head up firm. Each plant follows its script. The harvest will be the culmination of all efforts: soil care, pest vigilance, judicious watering, timely weeding. And the reward lies not just in produce, but in satisfaction, the tactile fruits of diligent care. There is nourishment, yes, but also joy, pride, and humility. A meditation rooted in dirt. In many ways, the entire process from soil turning to seed planting is a meditation. Facing the raw earth, the gardener contemplates impermanence and transformation. Things decompose, energy flows, life cycles forward. Planning takes place on a margin of uncertainty. Seeds hold potential but also dependency. Rain must come or crops will fail. There is surrender in cultivation, surrender of outcome, surrender of control, faith that small actions can ripple outward. When the seeds rest beneath the dark soil, there is a sacred pause, a hushed breath in the center of a breathing landscape. And it is here, at the heart of potential, that human purpose aligns with ecological rhythms. Extending through story, a day in the life. To deepen the detail, consider a slice of a gardener's day. Dawn light filters through dusty glass, catching motes above the planting bed. The gardener arrives, cup of strong tea in hand to gauge soil moisture. A touch on the surface and a pinch within reveals dryness near the surface. A determined step is taken to set the irrigation timer. Mid-morning breezes stir as birds swoop overhead. A low buzz of insects fills the air. The gardener pauses to watch. Honeybees hop from flower to flower on a neighboring wildflower patch, a sign that ecosystem health is on track. Late morning brings the act of sowing. Seeds are cosset in a small cedar box, ready to be placed with exact spacing. There's a rhythm: bend, scoop, scatter, cover, press. Sufficient depth, but not too deep. Firm but not compacted. Each row is labeled with twig markers and handwritten tags. Mid-afternoon heat approaches and a shade cloth is unfurled. A gentle canopy is built to protect vulnerable seedlings from sun scorch, a gesture of nurture in a harsh environment. As evening cools, the gardener returns for one last observation. Soil temperature, plant posture, vole trails, slugs under leaves. Adjustments are made, raised barriers added, monitoring jars filled with bait, a gentle mist applied to germination trays. In one day, one bed has been prepared, sown, shaded, observed. In the following weeks, the gardener will repeat similar cycles, perpetuating growth and liaising with nature's complexities, weaving together time and space. Ultimately, soil and seed is not just a physical practice. It is philosophical, ecological, and storytelling. The turned earth links today's gardener with ancient ancestors who tilled by oxen. The seed connects to genetics passed through ages of selection and adaptation. The waiting connects with hope in every real endeavor. We plant ideas, relationships, projects. We tend them. We suspend disbelief and trust. Earth turned. Seeds sown. Patience required. Roots will reach. Shoots will rise. Life will unfold. Under the gentle sunlight, the tender green sprouts slowly stretch themselves, rising from the earth with quiet determination. These young shoots, so small and delicate, yet full of promise, herald the beginning of new life. Each one stands as a silent testimony to the resilience of nature and the endless cycles it follows. They do not burst forth suddenly, but rather grow gradually, each movement upward a whisper of vitality, nurtured by the warmth of the sun and the richness of the soil. It is a sight so simple and serene, yet deeply symbolic. Every seedling that begins its journey toward the sky represents the fruit of careful labor, the outcome of human patience and dedication. The process that brings these plants to life is not one of haste, but of meticulous effort. Day after day, the hands of farmers, rough from years of toil, tend to the fields with devotion. They prepare the earth with reverence, knowing it is the source of all nourishment. With deliberate care, they sow seeds, water them, shield them from the elements when needed, and ensure that weeds do not steal their strength. This attention is not driven by modern machinery or scientific precision, but by intimate knowledge passed down through generations. It is an ancient wisdom, learned not from books but from observation, from listening to the land, and from a deep connection with nature. The act of nurturing these young plants is one of rhythm and instinct, guided by the signs of the sky, the smell of the soil, and the patterns of the seasons. In this medieval countryside, the relationship between people and the earth is one of mutual dependence and quiet reverence. As the seedlings rise, the wind dances gently through the young leaves, creating a soft rustling sound, a natural lullaby that seems to carry the breath of the earth itself. This breeze, cool and fragrant with the scent of grass and loam, weaves through the field like an invisible spirit, breathing life into everything it touches. It is as if the land is exhaling after holding its breath all winter, and now, with each gust of wind, it rejoices in renewal. The whispering wind among the sprouts is not just sound, it is memory, history, and the continuation of a timeless pattern. This humble work of cultivation, often overlooked in its quiet simplicity, is in fact a sacred ritual. It is repeated year after year not because it is easy but because it is necessary. Through drought and rain, through harsh winters and generous summers, this routine persists. It is not merely agriculture, it is a way of life. In the medieval countryside, this cycle defines the rhythm of the community. Time is not marked by clocks, but by the phases of the moon, the blossoming of certain flowers, the ripening of certain fruits. Each season brings its own labors and each task its own rewards. In spring, it is the sowing of seeds and the hopeful watching of first sprouts. In summer, the tending and watering, the guarding against pests. Autumn is the season of harvest, of gathering what has been grown with such care. And winter, though it may seem a time of stillness, is the season of preparation and mending, of tools and hands and spirits. Life in the fields follows this natural cadence, slow but purposeful. This repetition is not dull monotony, but rather the heartbeat of a life deeply rooted in nature. Every generation that comes after continues the same pattern. Fathers teach sons, mothers teach daughters, not through words alone but by example. Children grow up watching the rituals of planting and harvesting, of blessing the fields, of honoring the land. These traditions become a part of who they are. They are not questioned because they are understood on a level deeper than reason. In this rural world, there is little separation between work and life, between labor and meaning. Tending the fields is not merely about survival, it is also a form of devotion. The land is not owned, it is cared for. And in return it gives. It gives food, it gives beauty, it gives peace. This bond between the people and the earth is reciprocal, respectful, and enduring. It forms the foundation of a culture where sustainability is not a concept, but a lived reality. The medieval countryside is not marked by speed or change, but by steadiness. It moves slowly like the flow of a river or the growth of a tree. Change comes gradually, if at all, and is usually accepted as part of the natural order. The people here do not chase after time, they live within it. They wake with the sun, rest when it sets, and find contentment in the cyclical nature of their days. There is comfort in the repetition, in knowing that after every winter comes spring, after every harvest a time to sow again. And so, under the soft rays of morning light, the sprouts continue to rise. They are small, and many will not survive the trials of weather and pests. But those that do will grow into strong plants, into wheat or barley or vegetables or herbs. They will feed families, sustain animals, and sometimes even be sold at the local market. Their value goes far beyond their size. Each one holds within it the effort of months, the faith of those who planted it, and the promise of life renewed. Thus, this simple scene, sunlight on young green plants, wind moving gently through a medieval field, is not just a glimpse of nature. It is a portrait of rural life at its most profound. It is the story of survival, of continuity, of quiet labor and enduring hope. It is a world where time is measured in growth, where success is a sprouting seed, and where fulfillment comes not from conquest, but from harmony with the land. This is the rhythm of medieval countryside life, unhurried, persistent, and full of quiet strength. And in this rhythm, in the slow unfolding of each day, one can find a kind of peace that modern life too often forgets. It is here, in the fields, where the most essential truths endure, that life begins in small, tender shoots, that care and patience yield abundance, and that even in the humblest work there is grace. Not only are the fields emblematic of rural life, but the village itself also serves as the heart of many time-honored and patient crafts. These quiet, humble villages are more than just clusters of houses nestled among rice paddies. They are living museums of tradition, where human hands continue to carry out age-old practices passed down through generations. Among these crafts, textile weaving stands as one of the most vivid and enduring symbols of the villagers' dedication, skill, and perseverance. Inside the wooden homes, often darkened slightly by age and the soft patina of time, the rhythmic clatter of the weaving loom fills the air. It's a sound that many would not consider music in the traditional sense, yet to those who live there, it becomes a melody that embodies diligence, patience, and a quiet sense of purpose. The steady clicking of the shuttle as it slides back and forth across the loom is more than just a mechanical repetition. It is the sound of history being woven, one thread at a time. In the low, warm glow of sunlight that filters in through bamboo-shuttered windows, the weavers begin their day early. Often, these are women who have learned the skill from their mothers and grandmothers, who, in turn, learned it from theirs. This generational passage of knowledge is not just technical. It is deeply emotional, a connection between past and present that threads its way through every warp and weft. Every single thread used in the loom must be placed carefully, deliberately. It is not a job that allows for haste. The weaver must pay close attention, her fingers nimble yet gentle, guiding each thread through its path with precision. If a thread is misplaced, if the tension is off by even the slightest amount, the pattern could be ruined. That is why this work demands not only skill, but also patience and a calm state of mind. In this way, weaving is not just a job or a means of income, it is a practice of mindfulness, a meditative act that calls for the weaver to be fully present in every moment. The fabric that results from these countless hours of meticulous labor is not glossy or extravagant. Rather, it is rough-hewn, simple, and honest, reflecting the spirit of the people who make it. These are not mass-produced textiles found in factories. They are unique creations, each bearing the slight imperfections that mark the human hand. These imperfections, rather than detracting from the value of the cloth, actually enhance it. They are the subtle signs of authenticity, traces of the person who wove it, and of the moment in time when it was made. In this way, each piece of cloth becomes a silent storyteller. It speaks of the rhythm of the loom, of early mornings and long afternoons, of hands moving steadily across wood and thread. It speaks of quiet concentration, of the occasional pause to fix a broken thread, of the shared laughter and conversation that sometimes fills the room during a break. It also speaks of solitude, of the deep internal focus that such work requires. The loom itself, often a family heirloom made of weathered wood, creaks and sings with every movement. Despite its age, it performs its function with steady reliability. Its very construction is a testament to craftsmanship. No electricity is required, no digital interface needed. It is powered entirely by human effort, by the same kind of slow, steady determination that builds homes, plants seeds, and raises children. For visitors who stumble upon such a scene, the experience can be unexpectedly moving. At first, there may be a sense of unfamiliarity, even boredom in the repetition of the sounds. But the longer one listens, the more those sounds seem to settle into the body like a heartbeat. The click-clack of the shuttle, the soft rustle of thread, the occasional sigh or murmur from the weaver, they all combine to form a quiet symphony of life, one that speaks not through words but through rhythm. The process of weaving is not just physical either, it's deeply tied to memory, culture, and meaning. The colors of the thread might represent specific local plants used in natural dyes. The patterns woven into the cloth might tell stories from folklore, or mark important events like weddings, harvests, or the Lunar New Year. Each design has a reason for being, and each weaver brings her own sense of artistry into the creation. Even the choice of materials, cotton, hemp, silk, carries historical and cultural significance. Beyond the individual homes, there are sometimes communal weaving houses, places where multiple weavers work side by side. In these spaces, the sounds of weaving merge into a greater harmony. The repetition of looms becomes a collective rhythm, like many heartbeats aligned. In these shared spaces, the craft becomes more than individual labor. It becomes a bond that links people together in a common tradition, a shared act of preserving something fragile yet enduring. The children of the village grow up surrounded by this craft. They hear the loom before they understand it. They watch their mothers and grandmothers with a mix of curiosity and admiration. As they grow older, many begin to learn the process themselves, not out of obligation but out of respect and fascination. To learn to weave is not only to master a skill but to take part in a long story that has yet to end. It's worth noting that in today's world, where mass production dominates and efficiency often takes precedence over quality, such practices can seem outdated. But to dismiss them as relics is to miss their true value. These weaving traditions represent something deeper than just economic activity. They are acts of resistance against forgetfulness. They are ways of preserving identity, of remaining connected to land and ancestry, of finding meaning in the slow, deliberate act of creation. Thus, when one hears the even, repetitive sound of the loom in a village home, it is not just noise, it is music. Not music made for entertainment but for the soul. A music born of hands and hearts, shaped by history and carried forward by devotion. It is the music of care, of purpose, of time itself captured in fiber and thread. These villages, with their hand-woven fabrics and time-honored rituals, remind us of a different kind of wealth. Not one measured in money or material but in knowledge, skill, patience, and community. They remind us that progress does not always mean moving faster or doing more, but sometimes simply preserving what is beautiful, meaningful, and human. So while the fields outside may ripple with the wind and the seasons, inside the homes of the village, a quieter revolution continues, thread by thread, cloth by cloth, song by song of the loom. The carpenter, with a calm and focused demeanor, carefully chisels away at each fiber of the wood, treating every grain as though it carries a story of its own. His hands, roughened by years of work, move with a precision born not of haste but of deep familiarity and respect for his craft. Each stroke of his blade, each shaving that falls to the floor, is a testament to his quiet dedication. He is not merely shaping wood into form. He is transforming a raw, lifeless material into something useful, something meaningful, objects that will serve others in their daily lives. This humble workshop, filled with the scent of fresh sawdust and aged pine, is his sanctuary. The light filters in through slatted windows, casting gentle patterns on the wooden floor where curls of wood rest like fallen petals. Here time seems to slow, bending to the rhythm of human hands. the carpenter doesn't rush. He listens to the wood, feels its strength and its weaknesses, reads the direction of its grain before making any cut. His tools, chisels, mallets, planes, are extensions of himself, worn smooth by use, sharpened not just in steel but in intention. The bench at which he works bears the marks of years, perhaps decades, of labor, nicks, stains, and faint outlines of past creations. Somewhere in the distance, the faint echo of a blacksmith's hammer rings out. The sound is soft, muffled by the space between. It isn't loud or urgent, but steady and rhythmic, like the heartbeat of a small, hard-working village. Each strike carries with it the weight of effort, the promise of transformation. Though it travels across the air delicately, the sound conjures vivid images. Red-hot metal being drawn out and reshaped, sparks flying in the dim forge, sweat on the blacksmith's brow as he molds the glowing material into something strong and enduring. Maybe a horseshoe, a latch, a blade. The sounds from the forge don't interrupt the carpenter's work. Rather, they complement it. There is an almost invisible harmony between these two artisans, though they may be working separately and apart. One works with wood, the other with metal, each choosing a different path, but both rooted in the ancient pulse of manual labor. Each hammer tap, each chisel scrape, creates a rhythm, a quiet music of making, of doing. These sounds are not chaotic or clashing. They follow a subtle cadence, the slow, patient tempo of handcrafted work. There is no rush here, no blaring machines or conveyor belts. Just the hands of men shaping the world around them, one careful movement at a time. Every sound in this quiet orchestra tells its own story. The tap of wood being tested. The gentle rasp of sandpaper smoothing a surface. The distant thud of iron on iron. Each is distinct, yet none demand attention. Rather, they invite you to listen more closely, to tune into the subtle symphony of human effort and patience. These are the rhythms of creation, not production. The slow, deliberate pace reflects a way of life that values care over speed, quality over quantity. It's a reminder that beauty takes time, that purpose is not found in haste but in diligence. The carpenter pauses now and then, not in indecision but in thought. He steps back to observe the shape forming under his hands, to check the balance, the proportion, the feel. His eyes scan the surface for imperfections, and if he finds them, he smiles slightly. These flaws are not failures but signs of the human hand, tiny fingerprints of authenticity that no machine can replicate. To him, perfection isn't symmetry or flawlessness. It's the quiet satisfaction of knowing that each item he makes carries his effort and his care. Likewise, in that distant forge, the blacksmith may pause to quench the glowing steel in cool water, the hiss of steam marking a moment of transition. It is not just metal that is being tempered. It is a craft, a discipline forged through repetition and humility. Each tool he creates, each component he shapes, will find its place in the larger picture of life. Hinges that swing open a door, nails that hold together a roof, a blade that slices through the morning's harvest. Together, these craftsmen form a quiet backbone of daily life. Their work may not seek applause or attention, but it supports the world in countless invisible ways. A chair, a lock, a gate, a wagon. Simple things yet essential, born not in factories but in workshops scented with wood and smoke. In every curve and edge, one can trace the presence of their hands. There is something deeply grounding about witnessing such work. It slows the mind, brings the senses back to the present. In a world often ruled by speed, distraction, and noise, the soft beat of the carpenter's tools and the distant whisper of the smith's forge remind us of a different rhythm. A rhythm that speaks of intention, craftsmanship, and a deep connection between person and material. This is the quiet dignity of handwork, an echo from the past that still speaks in the present, through every carefully shaped piece of wood and every softly forged stroke of iron. The baskets are meticulously woven, each strand of bamboo or rattan interlaced with the care and precision born of long years of practice. These are not products churned out by machines in a bustling factory. They are the result of patient, deliberate craftsmanship, guided by experienced hands and a deep understanding of the materials. The artisans work in quiet concentration, their fingers moving with rhythmic familiarity as they bend, weave, and knot the natural fibers into form. Each basket, whether large or small, practical or decorative, is imbued with the touch of its maker, carrying within it a story of tradition, patience, and artistry. Nearby, in a modest open-air workspace, ceramic pots and vases take shape under similar hands, shaping, molding, and gently spinning them on a potter's wheel. The raw clay is coaxed into life, its transformation a slow but graceful process that mirrors the rhythm of the village itself. There is a kind of intimacy between the potter and their craft, a silent dialogue between human and earth, guided by touch, instinct, and memory. After shaping, the ceramics are left to dry in the sun, their pale forms gradually hardening in the warmth before being carefully placed in wood-fired kilns. The firing itself is another act of patience, an age-old ritual requiring just the right temperature and time. When removed from the kiln, the once pliable clay emerges as sturdy vessels, beautifully colored with natural glazes and slight imperfections that testify to their handmade origin. These creations, the baskets and the ceramics, stand as quiet testaments to human diligence and perseverance. They are not just useful items or objects of beauty, they represent an entire way of life built upon dedication to detail, to quality, and to time. In this village, time is not measured in minutes or deadlines. There is no frantic rush, no clamor of urgent tasks. Instead, time flows in sync with the seasons and with the steps of these enduring crafts. There is a remarkable stillness here, a slowness that is not dull but deeply intentional. It allows for care in every movement and thoughtfulness in every decision. The road that runs through the village lies nearly deserted, bathed in the soft, golden light of the afternoon sun slanting at an angle, what the locals affectionately call the sweet potato sunlight, for its gentle warmth and hue. The dust floats lazily in the light, and the occasional breeze rustles the leaves of trees that have stood for decades, even centuries, watching generations come and go. This road, quiet and sun-drenched, bears witness to days that pass not in haste but in harmony. In this space of stillness, every act becomes a meditation. The simple tasks, gathering raw materials, preparing tools, shaping and finishing each piece, are done not with indifference but with quiet reverence. Each motion, each decision, no matter how small, contributes to a larger whole, to the continuation of a cultural legacy. These are not just individual acts of creation, but communal expressions of continuity and shared identity. The repetition inherent in the work does not make it monotonous. Rather, it forms the backbone of a deeply rooted tradition. These crafts have been practiced for generations, handed down from parent to child, from elder to apprentice. The skills are not taught solely through instruction, but through observation, experience, and immersion in the environment of the craft. Young hands learn by doing, first awkwardly, then steadily, until the movements become second nature, a kind of muscle memory inherited from those who came before. This passing down of knowledge is not only about technique, but also about values: patience, attention to detail, pride in one's work, and respect for tradition. In each piece created, there lies a lineage, a link that connects the present to the past. The community finds stability in this continuity. It offers a rhythm to life, a reliable cycle of work and rest, of making and giving, of learning and teaching. Even as the world outside changes rapidly, with technology accelerating the pace of life and reshaping industries, this village remains grounded. It does not resist progress, but it holds fast to the essence of what gives it meaning. It recognizes that the strength of a community lies not only in its ability to innovate but also in its capacity to preserve. In the weaving of a basket and the molding of a pot, there is an unspoken declaration: we remember who we are. Thus, this quiet rural path, bordered by workshops and open yards, becomes more than just a route through a village. It becomes a symbol of endurance, of the beauty that emerges when life is lived deliberately and with care. The silence is not empty, it is full, with the whisper of old stories, the echo of familiar footsteps, and the unbroken thread of tradition. Here life is not rushed. It is embraced in its fullness, shaped not by speed but by intention. And in every crafted object, whether humble or ornate, we find a reflection of the community's soul, patient, skilled, and deeply human. A humble lunch and a moment of rest, peace at midday. As the sun reaches its zenith and casts golden light over the quiet countryside, it signals the time for a modest lunch and a brief, well-earned rest. This daily pause in the midst of labor is not just a necessity, it is a cherished ritual, a moment when time seems to slow down, offering a rare sense of peace and reflection. The meal itself is humble in every sense. There is no lavish preparation or elaborate presentation. It consists of whatever is available from the surrounding land, gifts from the soil, grown with care and harvested with effort. Often, it's a rough slice of bread, hearty and slightly coarse, baked from whole grains milled nearby. Beside it lie a few freshly dug root vegetables, perhaps a carrot, a potato, or a turnip, still carrying the scent of earth. Sometimes there may be a handful of herbs plucked that morning from the garden, adding aroma and a touch of flavor. A bowl of cool, clear water, drawn from a nearby well or stream, accompanies the meal, quenching thirst in the most satisfying way. Though the food may appear plain, there is a richness in its authenticity. Each bite carries with it the taste of the land and the labor of hands that have worked in harmony with nature. It is nourishment in its purest form, sustenance that feeds both the body and the soul. The simplicity of the meal reflects the unpretentious lifestyle of those who live closely with the rhythm of the seasons, in quiet coexistence with the natural world. After eating, there is a brief but precious time to rest. A soft breeze might rustle the leaves, and the sun filters through tree branches, casting dappled shadows on the ground. Workers might lean against a haystack or lie on a grassy patch, hats tilted over their faces to shield their eyes from the brightness above. In this moment there is no rush, no noise, no demands, only stillness and the soft sounds of nature. This short period of respite is more than physical recovery, it is a mental and emotional reset. It allows for contemplation, even if just for a few minutes, and brings a gentle clarity that helps one return to the afternoon's labor with renewed energy. In an age where life often moves too fast and meals are hurried affairs between appointments, the humble lunch and midday rest serve as a quiet reminder of what it means to live simply and presently. It is a celebration of enough food, enough time, and enough peace to carry through the day. Ultimately, this daily pause is not just about nourishment or fatigue. It is about honoring the day, the work, and the life lived in tune with the world. It is peace at midday, a quiet, grounding moment in the middle of it all. Beneath the generous shade of ancient trees, where their wide canopies stretch protectively over the earth, people find a moment of peace, a pause from the demands of their daily work. These towering old trees, with their gnarled trunks and sprawling branches, have stood for generations, bearing silent witness to the passing of time. In their presence, there is a comforting stillness, a feeling of being connected to something enduring and timeless. As the wind gently rustles through the dense foliage above, it carries with it a soft, whispering sound, like nature's own lullaby. The leaves tremble and dance in harmony, creating a delicate symphony that soothes the soul. Alongside the breeze, the rhythmic chirping of insects fills the air, weaving an ambient soundscape that feels both meditative and alive. Crickets, cicadas, and other tiny creatures contribute their voices, not in a chaotic chorus, but in a carefully balanced rhythm that blends seamlessly with the rustling leaves. This natural orchestra creates an atmosphere so calming that time itself seems to slow down. The usual rush of the day, the stress of tasks waiting to be done, and the pressures of modern life all begin to fade. Here there is no urgency. The minutes drift by unmeasured and unhurried. One is no longer a worker or a student, no longer confined by schedules or routines, but simply a human being, present in the moment, quietly existing within the arms of nature. The serenity of this setting offers more than just a physical rest. It invites mental and emotional clarity. As people sit or lie on the soft grass, leaning against the sturdy bark of the trees or reclining on a worn wooden bench, they begin to breathe more deeply. Their shoulders relax, their thoughts grow quieter. The mind, so often cluttered with concerns, starts to empty. In this stillness, there is space for reflection, for appreciating the beauty of the present, for reconnecting with oneself. Children's laughter may echo faintly in the distance, blending sweetly with the soundscape, yet even that seems softened, muffled by the natural insulation of the forest. The sun filters down in scattered beams through the green ceiling of leaves, casting dappled patterns on the ground below. These sunlit patches move slowly as the day progresses, reminding everyone that while time may feel paused, the world still turns gently onward. The energy of the place is restorative. It is not the kind of energy that jolts one into action, but rather the kind that quietly rebuilds from within. Muscles loosen, eyes grow heavier, and many find themselves tempted into a light nap. Others may sit in contemplative silence, perhaps with a book in hand, though often the presence of the natural world is distraction enough. The trees seem to hum with ancient wisdom, the wind seems to carry distant stories. By allowing themselves to fully embrace this peaceful interlude, people are not escaping their responsibilities, but preparing to return to them renewed. The rest found here is not one of laziness but of necessity, a deep, grounding pause that refuels both body and spirit. When the moment finally comes to rise and step back into the rhythm of the day, it is with a sense of calm focus and gentle strength. In the quiet shade of the old trees, the world doesn't disappear. It simply becomes quieter, kinder, and more bearable. And in that stillness, each person finds what they didn't know they were missing. A moment to simply be, to breathe, and to gather the energy they need to face whatever lies ahead in the afternoon. A single dry leaf drifted slowly from the branch of an old tree, spinning lazily through the warm air before it finally touched the ground with no sound, no fanfare, only a gentle, almost imperceptible landing. The moment passed in silence, as if the world itself had paused to watch. In that fragile instant, time seemed to stretch, and the ordinary became poetic. The village lay still, embraced in the golden hush of the early afternoon. The sun hovered high above, casting a soft amber light over the narrow dirt paths, the thatched rooftops, and the faded wooden fences that lined the homes. There was no breeze, no voice, no motion, just the quiet hum of nature at rest. Even the birds, which usually chirped endlessly in the trees, seemed to respect the stillness, their songs silenced by the tranquility of the hour. It was a sacred time, a moment carved out of the day for no purpose but rest. The daily chores had paused. The farmers had returned from the fields, their tools leaned carefully against walls or trees. Doors were half open, revealing darkened interiors where families sat together or dozed in hammocks. Children who had played in the sun all morning now slept under mosquito nets or lounged on cool stone floors, their laughter momentarily replaced by the rhythm of breathing. This was not merely a break in activity, it was a ritual of renewal. The stillness of the village was not empty but full of quiet intention. It was the kind of peace that didn't need to be explained or justified. The people had learned to live with the rhythm of the land, to honor the silence when it came. And in this silence, minds could wander freely, shedding the weight of worry and the tension of responsibility. Thoughts flowed more gently, like the leaf that had fallen, unhurried, natural, and free. The golden light poured through the gaps in bamboo walls, dancing on polished floors and casting long, soft-edged shadows. It touched everything it fell on, shoes by the door, bowls drying on wooden racks, flowers nodding gently in clay pots, and made them glow with quiet warmth. The village existed in a kind of timeless pause, where nothing needed to be done and everything simply was. For the body, it was a chance to loosen, to stretch without strain, to breathe deeply without urgency. The muscles, worked through the morning's labor, began to relax. The eyes, tired from the glare of the sun, welcomed the softer light. Even the heart seemed to beat slower, more steadily, as if it too was enjoying the serenity of the hour. This midday stillness was more than a tradition, it was a necessity. It was the body and spirit's quiet preparation for what lay ahead, the return to labor, to conversation, to movement and noise. But when the time came to rise again, to pick up tools and resume tasks, it would be done from a place of calm. The energy would return not from force, but from having truly rested. And so, the afternoon would unfold not as a burden, but as a continuation of peace in motion. In such a place, in such a moment, it became clear that the smallest details, the silent fall of a leaf, the way sunlight brushes across the floor, the still air holding it all, could be enough. More than enough. They were reminders that life was not only about doing but about being. And that being, fully and quietly, was its own kind of work, its own kind of beauty. And so, in that slowness, in that still moment beneath the golden sun, everything was ready, ready for the rest of the day, ready for life to gently begin again. Twilight and harvest, the flavor of effort. As the last rays of sunlight begin to soften and fade across the horizon, a quiet yet purposeful energy persists in the fields. The day may be nearing its end, but for the farmer, the rhythm of labor continues steadily. This is not just a routine task. It is a ritual of gratitude and resilience. With each passing moment, the golden light bathes the crops, casting long shadows across the land that has been cultivated with care and determination. Part of the field has already been harvested, revealing bare patches of soil that glisten faintly under the setting sun. These patches are not empty, they are monuments to hard work, the canvas upon which months of dedication have been painted. The remaining crops stand tall, swaying gently in the evening breeze, waiting their turn to be gathered. There is no rush, only rhythm. The farmer knows the land and listens to its quiet voice. The harvested bundles of rice lie in neat rows, tied with skillful hands that have repeated this gesture countless times over the years. Each bundle is a testament to patience and perseverance, formed through the cycles of sowing, watering, nurturing, and waiting. The roots of vegetables, pulled carefully from the earth, reveal themselves in their full form, carrots with dirt still clinging to their orange skin, radishes with leaves fluttering like small green flags, potatoes nestled in clusters as if reluctant to part from the soil. This is the tangible reward of persistent effort. It is not just food, it is sustenance born from a bond with the earth, cultivated through sweat and sustained by tradition. Every grain of rice, every bulb and tuber, carries within it a story of growth, a narrative that began with a seed and evolved through storms, sunshine, toil, and trust. These are not products of industry but of intimacy, a deep connection between human hands and nature's cycles. The farmer pauses for a moment, brushing the sweat from a weathered brow, eyes scanning the expanse of the field. There's a calm satisfaction in that gaze, not pride in the sense of arrogance, but in the quiet dignity that comes from having fulfilled one's role in the dance of creation. Twilight settles over the land, tinting the sky with hues of purple, rose, and gold, and in this light, everything feels sacred. In the background, the soft sounds of evening emerge. Crickets beginning their nightly chorus, the faint call of a distant bird, the rustle of leaves in the wind. The air is thick with the scent of earth, rich, loamy, and alive. It is the smell of life itself, of cycles completed and new ones beginning. The day's work may be almost done, but the farmer understands that the labor never truly ends. It simply transforms, following the rhythm of the seasons. Harvest time is more than just a period of gathering. It is a celebration of endurance, of the partnership between people and the land they inhabit. It is a reminder that effort, when rooted in care and consistency, yields not just crops but meaning. Each harvest is both an ending and a beginning, a moment to reflect on what has been achieved and to prepare for what lies ahead. As darkness finally falls and the tools are set aside, the heart remains full, not only with the weight of the day's work, but with a profound sense of purpose. For the farmer, this twilight is not merely the close of a day, but a quiet hymn to life itself, sung through the hallowed fields, echoed in the humble grains and vegetables, and carried home in hands that have always known how to give and to grow. From a distance, the herd of livestock gradually makes its way back to the shelter after a long day of grazing on the open grasslands. The soft bleating of sheep echoes faintly through the golden twilight, carried gently by the breeze. Their cries are not loud, not frantic, just small rhythmic sounds as if each animal were quietly announcing its presence to the world. Interspersed with these gentle calls is the steady, muffled cadence of countless hoofbeats pressing into the well-worn trail, a path shaped by routine, by season, by time itself. The scene is one of deep serenity, a portrait of life in its most natural harmony. There is no hurry in their pace, no sense of urgency driving them forward. Instead, they move with a calm, measured rhythm, guided not by force or commands, but by instinct and familiarity. The sun hangs low in the sky, casting long shadows across the earth. Its golden rays illuminate the dust kicked up by the animals' hooves, creating a hazy aura that shrouds the herd in a soft, ethereal glow. Everything is bathed in the gentle light of early evening, that fragile moment between day and night when the world seems to pause and exhale. There is something ancient in their movement, something deeply rooted in tradition and the cycles of nature. The herd has done this journey countless times before, so many that the path back to the barn seems almost carved into their memories. Each step they take is familiar and sure, unhurried yet purposeful. They know where they're going and they understand the comfort that awaits them. Behind them, the fields they grazed on lie in quiet contentment, dotted with tufts of grass still swaying from the afternoon breeze, and specks of dust settling in the golden light. The shepherd stands silently nearby, a respectful observer rather than a commander. He does not raise his voice or urge the animals onward. His presence is gentle, calm, almost invisible. There is trust between man and beast, an unspoken agreement formed over time and countless days just like this one. He watches them return, each bleat and footstep affirming the peaceful rhythm of rural life. His hands, worn and strong, rest by his sides, still and patient as he listens to the quiet symphony of homecoming. It is not just the animals returning. It is a feeling too, a sense of closure, of the day winding down. There is something profoundly moving about watching the herd slowly file back into the safety of their enclosure, each one passing through the gate like a note in a well-composed melody. The moment carries a quiet dignity. Nothing grand or dramatic, only the simple grace of beings returning to where they belong. This is not merely an end-of-day ritual. It is a reflection of life's greater rhythms, of departure and return, of work and rest, of the constant pull toward home. The sounds of the sheep, the rhythm of their footsteps, the play of light and dust in the fading sun, all blend into a peaceful chorus that speaks of harmony, of belonging, of the timeless dance between nature and those who live within it. As twilight deepens and the first stars begin to flicker into view, the last of the herd disappears into the enclosure. The gate swings gently shut, not with a clang but with a whisper as if it too respects the stillness of the hour. And in that moment, everything feels complete. No rush, no noise, only the natural cadence of return. The evening is at peace. The scent of wood smoke began to linger gently in the air, curling upward in thin, wavering trails from the rooftops scattered across the village. It was subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but grew steadily more distinct as the late afternoon sunlight mellowed into golden hues. This delicate aroma marked the beginning of a familiar and comforting ritual. The evening meal was being prepared. As the smoke drifted lazily through the cooling air, it brought with it memories, sensations, and the quiet rhythm of life in a place untouched by haste. Each home seemed to exhale its own unique version of the same essence. Some fires burned with the fragrance of dry bamboo, others released the richer, more earthy scent of seasoned wood. The mingling of these aromas in the air painted an invisible but palpable tapestry of domestic life, one stitched together by generations of repetition and care. Dogs lay curled near doorways, their ears twitching at distant sounds but their eyes closed in the lull of late daylight. Chickens clucked softly in their coops, rustling in the straw as the sun cast long shadows across the packed earth paths of the village. This was not a place of rushing cars or honking horns. No factory sirens or glowing neon intruded here. Instead, the only sounds were those of nature and livelihood. A ladle clinking against the side of a pot, firewood being split with a practiced hand, the occasional murmur of conversation drifting through open windows. Everything seemed to happen in harmony with the setting sun, as if the whole village moved to the rhythm of the light. Children played nearby, their laughter weaving in and out of the fading day. They darted barefoot along the dusty lanes, chasing each other between houses, their energy unspent even as the day came to a close. Occasionally, a mother's voice would call out, soft, not scolding, reminding them that soon it would be time to come in to wash up and sit down to dinner. The children knew these calls by heart and answered them without protest, as though it were part of an ancient understanding between them and the turning of the day. Inside the homes, preparations unfolded with a calm familiarity. Vegetables were chopped with rhythmic precision, soup pots simmered over clay stoves, and rice cookers hissed quietly in the corners. The glow of firelight flickered against wooden beams and clay walls, casting dancing shadows that hinted at stories long told and retold over countless meals. There was no chaos in these kitchens, only the quiet industry of sustenance. The food was not extravagant, but it was honest. Steamed greens, fresh herbs, fish caught that morning from the nearby stream. The smell of cooked rice, sweet and nutty, joined the symphony of scents in the air. The entire village seemed to exude a profound sense of peace, a softness that settled over everything like a familiar blanket. The day had fulfilled its purpose, and now, as the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, the night was gently ushering itself in. Lamps would soon be lit, simple oil lights that cast a warm golden glow through woven bamboo screens. Families would gather around low tables, talking quietly, eating slowly, enjoying not just the food but the comfort of each other's presence. Nothing in this moment was hurried. There was no need for speed. Life here moved with the sun and paused with the stars. The rhythm of the village was not measured in seconds but in seasons, in harvests, in the turning of the moon. And so, as the smoke rose from the rooftops and mingled with the cooling evening air, it marked not just the coming of dinner, but the continuation of a way of life, steady, unchanging, and deeply serene. Everything unfolded according to a quiet, unwavering order, without surprises, without urgency. It was a daily ritual, a communal heartbeat, reminding all who lived there that peace can still be found in the simple, slow moments of everyday life. Nightfall and sleep, the silence of time. When nightfall descends completely and darkness envelopes the entire village, a profound transformation takes place. It is a quiet metamorphosis that doesn't happen with loud announcements or sudden shifts, but with gentle, gradual transitions that only those attuned to the rhythm of nature can fully appreciate. As the final hues of twilight fade into the horizon, the village is slowly wrapped in a soft, inky veil that seems to muffle every sound, every motion, and every thought. The sky above becomes a canvas for the stars, each one a distant flicker, a timeless witness to the quiet lives below. They appear like pinpricks of silver dust scattered across the vast expanse, glimmering faintly, yet resolutely through the velvet dark. The moon, in its gentle dignity, casts a silvery glow over rooftops and trees, turning even the most mundane scenes into moments of poetic stillness. Its light dances subtly over cobbled paths, glints off the surface of sleeping streams, and filters through the branches of tall, ancient trees. Within the homes scattered throughout the village, life slows. The warm glow of firelight flickers behind windows curtained against the night. In hearths, the flames crackle and leap, casting long, slow-moving shadows that paint the walls with memories of the day just past. The scent of smoldering wood and cooked meals still lingers in the air, adding to the sense of closeness and comfort. There is something sacred about this time, the moment between wakefulness and dreams, between the world of noise and the realm of quiet. Conversations, once vibrant and animated during dinner or around the fire, begin to soften. Voices lower into murmurs, then fade into thoughtful silences. The laughter of children, earlier so full of life and mischief, is replaced by the rhythm of steady breathing as they succumb to sleep. Parents tuck them into warm beds, whispering bedtime stories that hover in the air for a moment before dissolving into the hush. Outside, the wind brushes through the leaves with a sound like a distant lullaby. Occasionally, the hoot of an owl or the rustle of a small creature in the underbrush reminds the night that not all is asleep, but even these sounds serve to highlight the encompassing stillness rather than break it. The world becomes contemplative, inward-looking. It is a time when the earth seems to pause, as if in reverence to the great mystery of rest. This is the silence of time, a silence not born of absence but of presence. It is a silence full of meaning, depth, and emotion. In it there is peace but also memory. There is solitude but also connection. Each household shares in this collective quietude, their lives momentarily synchronized by the same rhythm of night and sleep. The ticking of clocks becomes more pronounced, marking time not in rush and urgency, but in slow, deliberate beats. As sleep finally takes hold, dreams begin to weave their way into the minds of those resting. The dreams are gentle, shaped by the calm of the evening and the safety of the homes in which they sleep. Time stretches, becomes elastic, and in its quietness, allows room for healing, for reflection, and for peace. Thus, the night settles fully over the village. It is not just the end of a day but a passage, a return to stillness, to the essential quiet of existence. In this hush, the world breathes differently. It listens. It waits. And in this waiting, in this sacred pause, life finds its rest. A small candle flickered gently on the wooden table, its flame dancing in slow, delicate movements. The soft glow it emitted painted the surrounding walls with shifting, mysterious shadows, as if invisible hands were drawing ancient symbols or telling silent stories only the night could understand. The flame was modest, almost fragile, yet it stood unwavering against the vast darkness of the room, defying the night with its quiet resilience. Its presence was subtle but powerful, just a tiny light in the immense stillness, and yet it held dominion over its little corner of the world. Each flicker of light seemed to breathe life into the otherwise empty space, wrapping it in a comforting warmth. It was not merely the physical heat of the flame, but a deeper, more emotional warmth, a sense of safety and peace. In the presence of such a humble glow, the room felt less lonely, less vulnerable to the mysteries that lurk in the dark. Every inch of light pushed back the unknown just a little further, making the world feel more familiar, more secure. Beyond the candle's glow, the entire village was cloaked in absolute silence. Houses, tucked away beneath their sloping roofs, stood like sleeping giants in the gentle embrace of night. Streets lay deserted, paths no longer trodden by the footsteps of villagers. Doors were closed, shutters drawn, as if the world itself had decided to pause, to breathe and to wait. The atmosphere was thick with tranquility, not the heavy silence of dread, but the peaceful stillness of rest. The only sounds that accompanied this stillness were the subtle, soothing whispers of the night. The rhythmic chirping of crickets played like a lullaby, rising and falling in natural harmony. Every now and then, a faint breeze would pass through, sighing softly as it drifted over rooftops, slipping through cracks and corners, caressing the eaves of homes like a ghost of the wind. These quiet murmurs blended seamlessly with the dark, creating a soundscape both serene and alive. It was a sacred kind of quiet, one that made every sound more meaningful. The creak of old wood, the flutter of a moth's wings near the candle flame, even the sound of a breath taken in a sleeping room, all became part of a symphony meant only for those who stayed awake long enough to hear it. The village in its entirety had surrendered to slumber. Behind every closed door, families lay curled under warm blankets, dreams unfolding in the shelter of familiar walls. Children slept with peaceful expressions, their cheeks touched by the faint remnants of laughter from the day just past. The elderly, wrapped in their memories, slept with a calmness earned through years of seeing the world change and remain the same. Everything had found its rightful place for the night. And amidst it all, the candle continued its slow, deliberate burn. The wax melted with the patience of time, forming small puddles that solidified into delicate layers, evidence of minutes past, of silence kept. Its flame still danced, not with urgency but with grace, as if honoring the night and the stillness it brought. All was settled. Everything and everyone had found their place within the rhythm of darkness and light, noise and hush. The candle's flame held on, like a sentinel of hope and calm, quietly guarding the hours until dawn. And so the village waited, still, serene and at peace, for a new day to begin. This is the moment to truly let go of everything, to release the tension, the thoughts, the worries that have followed you throughout the day. It is the sacred time when your mind no longer needs to race, solve, or remember. The day has come to a close, and all its demands, all its noise and movement, now fade quietly into the background. You've done enough. You've carried enough. And now you are allowed, no, you are invited, to rest. Let your mind gently drift away from today's concerns. Whatever was unfinished, whatever didn't go as planned, can wait. It no longer belongs to this hour. You are not required to fix anything right now. You are not expected to be strong or productive or in control. This is your time. A time for stillness. A time to sink deeply into peace. Let your body grow heavy with comfort, as if each breath you take carries you deeper into the softness of the night. Feel the bed supporting you, holding you without asking anything in return. Let the muscles in your neck, shoulders, arms, and back slowly soften. Let go of the tightness in your jaw, the furrow in your brow, the stiffness in your hands. There is nothing to hold on to anymore. Everything you need is already here. The world outside continues to turn, but for now you are exactly where you need to be, safe, warm, and at ease. Breathe deeply and slowly. Inhale peace, exhale tension. With each breath, allow yourself to surrender more to the quiet. Feel the rhythm of your breath become slower, gentler. You're not forcing sleep, you're welcoming it. You're creating space for it to arrive, naturally and softly, like the calm descent of nightfall. Whatever emotions may linger, stress, sadness, joy, or uncertainty, let them pass through you like clouds across the sky. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to hold them. Just observe, then release. Nothing must be fixed tonight. Everything can be held lightly. Now, imagine yourself surrounded by calm, a gentle darkness that wraps around you like a blanket. There is no pressure here, no noise, no expectations. Just silence and softness. Your body knows how to rest. Your soul remembers how to be still. Allow yourself to be completely at ease. Sleep is not just a physical need. It is a gift, a return to balance, a time of healing. As your body restores itself, your mind clears, your spirit recharges. This is not just the end of a day. It is a sacred transition, a return to your inner sanctuary. And in this sanctuary you are whole. So let sleep come. Let it find you in this place of calm. Let it wash over you gently like a tide coming to shore. Trust that tomorrow will come when it's ready. But tonight belongs only to you. To your rest. To your peace. To your dreams. May you have the most peaceful sleep. May your body feel held, your mind feel quiet, and your heart feel light. Let your dreams take you to places of wonder and warmth, far from any worry. You deserve this moment of calm. You deserve this deep, uninterrupted rest. Good night. May serenity find you. See you again in your dreams. If you are currently feeling a sense of calm and tranquility, perhaps taking a deep breath and allowing yourself a moment of stillness, we invite you to take one simple action that could continue to bring moments like this into your life. Consider clicking the subscribe button to join the HistoryNook channel. By doing so, you become part of a growing community of listeners who value peace, reflection, and the gentle unfolding of stories that inspire quiet thought. And while you're there, don't forget to turn on notifications. This small step ensures that each time we release a new episode, a new audio journey into the serene corners of history or soothing soundscapes designed to calm your mind, you'll be among the first to know. There's something deeply reassuring about knowing that another peaceful escape is just a notification away, waiting for you whenever you need it. Our content is created with the purpose of helping you find balance in a world that often feels overwhelming. Whether you're listening to relax after a long day to help ease yourself into sleep, or simply to carve out a few minutes of stillness amid a busy schedule, we want our channel to be a gentle retreat you can return to anytime. You don't have to do anything at all, of course. Sometimes the best thing you can do is simply let the sound carry you, guiding you gently into rest. So if clicking buttons isn't what feels right in this moment, then just let the audio wash over you, softly, steadily, like waves on a quiet shore. Allow it to lead you deeper into your own inner stillness, into a restful sleep or a peaceful meditation. At HistoryNook, we believe in creating more than just content. We craft experiences, calm, immersive, and intentionally slow-paced, to counterbalance the constant noise and urgency of modern life. Every sound, every spoken word, and every quiet pause is part of that experience. Your presence here means you value that kind of space in your life. And if that's true, we hope you'll stay with us for future journeys. So whether you're reaching for sleep, seeking focus, or simply enjoying the luxury of doing nothing at all, we're honored to be here with you. When you're ready, if it feels right, subscribe to the channel and enable notifications so these quiet explorations can continue to accompany you, night after night, moment after moment. Or don't worry about any of it. Just let this soundscape carry you away, gently and without effort, into the comfort of a deep and peaceful sleep. Let go. Rest. You're exactly where you need to be. And now, as the stories of a day in a medieval village gently fade into the quiet corners of memory, let your mind slowly begin to drift away from the noise of the world. The flickering torches have dimmed, the villagers have found their rest, and the sounds of the evening have softened into silence. All that remains is the stillness of night, cradling you in its calm embrace. Allow yourself to let go completely. Let the weight of the day dissolve as a gentle wave of relaxation spreads from your head down to your toes. With each breath, feel your body growing lighter, your thoughts becoming softer, and your heart beating in a steady, peaceful rhythm. There is nothing more to do. No more stories to be told tonight. The past is behind you and tomorrow can wait. You are safe. You are calm. You are exactly where you need to be. Breathe in deeply, and as you exhale, let yourself gently sink into a deep and peaceful slumber. Let the dreams come as they will, carrying you to places full of wonder and warmth. Sleep well. May peace be with you. And until we meet again, in dreams, good night.